Hey everybody, my name is James Joseph, brand ambassador for Old Forester. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the 4 expressions in our Whiskey Row series, as well as some really cool innovations in our single barrel program that have come out more recently. To start off with our Whiskey Row series, we'll have the 1870 original batch, the 1897 bottled in bond, the 1910 Old Fine Whiskey, and the 1920 Prohibition style. In 1870, a young pharmaceutical salesman named George Garvin Brown founded Old Forester based on the principles of quality and consistency. George was not a distiller by trade. He did not come from a family of distillers. But in order to start this company, he actually went out and sourced bourbon from 3 different distilleries: the Mattingly Distillery, the Athelton Distillery, and the Melwood Distillery. Blend these barrels together for a consistent flavor profile and bottle at 90 proof, making Old Forester the world's first bottled bourbon. Fast forward a few years to the year 1897, and the US government passes the Bottled in Bond Act. Bottled in Bond bourbon has more regulations than your standard traditional bourbon. It has to be distilled by the same master distiller. It has to come from the same distillery. It be aged in or blended barrels from the same distilling season. It has to be aged for a minimum of 4 years and bottled at a minimum of 100 proof. Now, up until this point, George was sourcing bourbon from 3 different distilleries, blending that together and bottling it at 90 proof, so this would not have been considered bottled in bond bourbon. And for this reason, he went out and purchased his very first distillery, the Mattingly Distillery, one of the original 3 that they were sourcing from. And because of the Bottled in Bond Act, Old Forester no longer sources their whiskey. A few years later, in 1910, October 22nd of 1910 to be exact, when a fire at the bottling plant halts production of Old Forester for a short period of time. The distillers in that era had to decide, do we dump this vat of 100 proof bottled in bond bourbon that's ready to be bottled, or what if we put it back into a barrel and see what happens? And so they let that go for about 6 to 9 months. They crack open those barrels and all of a sudden they realize, wow, this stuff tastes really, really good. But unfortunately, it does not taste anything like traditional Old Forester. It was bottled as something called Old Fine Whiskey, and it had a very, very short production run, but it's something that is absolutely incredible and just another check off the box for the innovations in the history of Old Forester. That's the Whiskey Row series for you. Hopefully you find one of these that you really, really enjoy. On to some other newer innovations that have kind of come our way. In May of 2020, we announced that we were going to be making some changes to our single barrel program. Many of our consumers had spoken and let us know that they were interested in having a higher proof single barrel option. And so we decided we were going to listen to what everybody had to say, completely changed up our program where we now offer a unfiltered barrel proof single barrel as well as a 100 proof offering. Shortly thereafter that, it was decided that it was time for us to put out our first single barrel rye, and that is what we have here, just recently hitting the market, bottled at 128 proof for this particular expression. Keep your eyes peeled because this stuff is absolutely fantastic. I really hope you're able to find something that you like out of this bunch, and always remember, it's an Old Forester kind of day.